Monday, 14 days away from Christmas Day, and in the studio, it is in the house, Sally Doty, Director of Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility, called BEAM. Good morning, ma'am. How are you?
Good morning. It's only 14 days until Christmas.
It really is kind of shocking, isn't it?
It's shocking.
It jumps up at you quickly. Well, can we reminisce a little bit on the state senate back in your old days? Before we get to BEAM, but I was looking at some of the numbers, and this is a 4-month period. What's your memory of that as far as 4 months compared to 3 months?
Well, it takes some time at the beginning. You know, you've got to get new chairmanships established every 4 years. You've got to do the inauguration and all of those festivities. It takes about, a couple of weeks for that, and then you get down to business. And it really just gives new members that opportunity to get in there. And, there's a lot of just, you got to meet new people. You got to visit with them, talk about what's important to them. So, but then when you stay past March, it becomes excruciating. Everyone's ready to get back home.
Well, I'm looking at some of the new members. We have a long list of new members, and some of these, there are a few that have been in politics before, but you got a lot of virgin members of the legislature that have never been in politics. And when you come in, you talk about the procedures, the protocols. Everybody's there because they want to be effective and serve, and the procedures are sometimes complicated. And it takes a while to understand it.
It's a bit shocking when you come in, especially right off of the campaign trail, and you've been working, and you have so much you want to do, and then you get into the confines and rules of the legislature. And it very much works by rules, a lot by seniority and by deadlines. And so you have to adjust to that. And it takes a little time. So I'm looking forward to having everyone back in town.
How long does it take for frustration to set in?
Oh, by about week 2, maybe.
That's honest.
It is the truth. It is the truth.
The Republicans will hold court, and as far as a supermajority in the 122-member House of Representatives, 79 Republicans in office and only 41 Democrats in office. So that is pretty outstanding. So there you go. And the Senate just
elect a new speaker. That's going to be, that'll take some time. We think we all know who that is, but that formality has to happen.
That's true. And when do you get your committee assignments? I mean, how long does it take? A week afterwards?
It depends. We have some continuity, especially in the Senate. I can't speak as much of the House, so I think some of those will remain similar. I don't know, but when you have a new lieutenant governor, then it takes a bit longer. But I think Governor Hosemann will get down to it pretty quickly. I think it'll only take a week or two.
We're at the end of the year, as we mentioned, and the 2022 legislative session had the HB 1029, which created this office that you are, by virtue of Tate Reeves choosing you in the Senate to lead this office. So kind of a year-end report here. Where are we now on the, 11th day of December?
We are making a lot of progress, and this next year is going to be an incredible year as well. We are on the verge, and when I say verge, I mean within days, hours, minutes, maybe not minutes, but days of releasing our Capital Projects Fund awards. That's going to be $150 million in broadband projects across the state. We just have a few. I thought maybe I could announce today, but we have a few I's we got to I's to dot and T's to cross. And once we make those awards, it's a 30-day process by statute. We have to put out initial awards, and then other providers can look at those awards and challenge them if those awards, they say, hey, that we've already served that location, or we're going to build that location in 6 months. So there's a 30-day challenge period that we have out there for those awards. So we will award those really probably within the next week, or certainly week or two, and then start that 30-day challenge period, and then those awards will be final 1st of January. So we've been working on that for quite a while. It's very technical in nature, and we want to make sure that we are such good stewards of this money. And so we don't want to give awards where there is already service or where there is already federal funding. So our office has took a little bit of time to work through those technical issues.
Without giving us specifics, can you tell us about how many we're talking about? Are these municipalities, counties? Where are most of these?
They are for unserved areas around the state.
Yeah.
So
they're going to be rural areas.
They are rural areas, but they are some small towns around the state as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so it's the way we have it. It looks to be pretty spread out geographically, and so we're really excited about the opportunities that will provide.
Sally, who's going to challenge you? Who's most likely to challenge this? When we're talking about challenge?
Other providers. Other providers.
In other words, we're already in here, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and we do not expect a lot of that because we have been very careful about that. But something, this is so technical in nature, it is hard to keep up with 1.3 million residential locations in Mississippi. So.
Do you have any idea what the population is encompassed in all of this? How many people we're covering?
We think about 30,000 additional service locations will be provided. In Mississippi, my best information is that we have about 170,000 locations that do not have broadband, high-speed internet service of at least 100 down, 20 up. And so if we take 30,000 out with Capital Projects Fund, that leaves, of course, 140,000 somewhere around that area. And then we will be working on the big pot of money that is coming to Mississippi. Our allocation from the feds is $1.2 billion, and we are programming that out. We hope and think that it will reach every remaining location in the state that is unserved, and we can also reach underserved as well.
I'm glad you're in that position because I'd hate to see the paperwork to get that done with the federal government.
I have notebooks and notebooks and notebooks and notebooks. Yeah, we have quite a bit. We've had to do a 5-year plan, an initial proposal, Volume 1, Volume 2. My favorite acronym so far is IPFR. We have to do our initial proposal funding request. So, but I do want to talk to you about one thing that we do need individuals to help us with. We are going to have a challenge process. Now, I talked about this with the awards, but this is separate. As we move into BEAD, which is the big pot of money, we've got to have our map exactly right. This is the last chance for someone to make sure that the map accurately shows the status of their location. So we will run a very formal challenge process. Again, this is dictated by the feds. They sent a lot of these rules to us. And we will run this as a state over after the first of the year. Our plan hasn't been approved yet. It will be. It's just a matter of formality. But once they approve that, we will have a 90-day challenge process, 30 days for challenges to be made, 30 days for providers to respond, and then 30 days for our office to investigate that and make a determination. So we plan on running that.
Are we talking about the speed test, or what are we talking about?
Yeah, we are. So that is one way to challenge that. So there are different challenges that can be made, but, it might be as simple as, on the map, and so our map shows what has been reported to the FCC by providers. So, and I'm going to give you all the link to our map. We've got it refined and ready and easy to use. You can look at you can put your address in, and it'll pull up your address and show every provider that is reported to the FCC that they provide service to your residents. And what speed? This is the speed that they say. And so often there are some discrepancies in that. We'll have an individual that say, X company says they offer me, but when I call, they say they don't come to my house. They don't come to my location. No. So it could be a challenge like that, or it could be they say this speed, I never get this speed. And so we do rely on a speed test to do that. So it's at broadbandms.com, broadbandms.com/BEAD, which is the name of the program where we're getting the money, /BEAD map. And it's easy to use, so it shows what is served, it shows what's underserved, and very interesting, it also shows where we already have federal funding. Mississippi has a tremendous amount of existing federal funding as well.
I'll make sure I post that in just a moment or
Yes.
two. But again, it's called broadbandms.com/bead map.
BEAD, bead map.
BEAD map in all small case.
Yeah, I don't think it matters.
.org or anything after that?
Broadbandms.com/bead map.
Bead map.
I'll send it to
I'll
y'all.
send that. Very good. Thank you. Back with the IC. Sally Doty is with us, Director of Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility. There was somebody on C Spire text line, which is, by the way, 601-879-4395. Trying to figure out and understand the piles of money here. First of all, we had money coming from, I think, from the CARES Act, which was about $75 million. We had money coming, another $32 million here, and then I think you said something about $1.2 billion or something, 1.5 or something that's coming in. And they're all in stages, of course.
Yes, they've been different grant programs, and so we are in the process. So the $75 million is out the door. It was CARES Act funding. It was matched, so it really ended up leveraging to $150, and those are all that is done. The $32 million my office applied for. It was a separate grant program. We are administering that. Those must be complete by September of this year. So we're actively involved in that. This CARES Act, Capital Projects Fund is ARPA funding, and it is a total of $162 million. That is what we are about to award. And then we have our final program is the $1.2 billion, which we should reach all the remaining with that.
And when is that process coming up as far as them, whoever's left out there, start to file their paperwork?
So we are going to run as part of that $1.2 billion, as part of the BEAD program. We are required to run this challenge process that I was describing before we left. That's why we have our map up. So we will run that challenge process, and then our map should be complete. Our map should show exactly what locations are unserved, what are underserved, what already has some previous federal funding. And so then we will know how many locations we have, and we are going to define project areas around the state, put those project areas out for our providers to look at them for a couple of weeks, get their comment on it, make any revisions, and then we will, in essence, take bids on those project areas as we move forward.
I did send that out. As a matter of fact, I'm watching it now. The interactive map is pretty good. All you got to if you haven't seen it, go to @Paul Gallo Show on X, and it's there. Just click on the link, and the map is. I see a couple of dark spots in there, and I guess that would denote areas that are.
Well, if you look at the dark spots, when you zoom in, you see it better. But there's Camp Shelby. It's a big dark spot. Then we have Stennis. It's a big dark spot there along the Pearl River. And then there are areas over in the Delta that there's just it's farmland.
It's Sequina.
So,
I'm looking at my deer camp right now, and I'm like, we need to work on that.
Yeah,
that's the darkest place. That's going to take. It's going to take the whole $1.2 billion to cover Sequina with the 600 people there.
So we, as you look at those, it's so interesting to look around the state. So the green dots that are on there show already funded areas. Mississippi was very fortunate in the RDOF auction, which was in about 2020, and that is not something that our office is in charge of. It's straight from the FCC, but there is already federal funding, and that build out is progressing through RDOF as well.
What does the red show?
The red is unserved.
Oh, is that right? Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean, there are counties, many counties in the state where there is nothing at all. It's just red all over. The white shows current providers?
Yes, the white is served.
The white is served. Just a very, very small area. I don't see the name of the counties on here, but most of them are, there's some to the east of us, too. But it is needed badly.
Yeah, it is. So that really gives us, that is our map that we are going to use. So if you are out there, I'm going to tell you, we know usually if there is no service at all. But in instances where there maybe is some service, is some service, but you feel like you do not get the speeds that your provider perhaps tells you will, that is when it's so important to work through this challenge process. Local governments, nonprofits, and providers can participate. So if you are an individual out there and you know your neighborhood has some issues, you need to talk to somebody in your local government and talk to the mayor, talk to whomever. We are working through the municipal league. We'll be working through the Supervisors Association. So we're going to kind of be working down. We need you at the grassroots level to be working up and let your people know if there is an issue with your the speed of your internet.
Well, chances are the 30-day period is going to be, you think at the end of January, or it just depends? It's going to be from the date you announce?
It is, yeah, and we'll be careful about that. I think it will,
Okay.
I think end of January, 1st of February is when we'll start that. And we're going to do some webinars. We are going to go out. I'm going to meet with all of the planning and development districts. I've already got that on the books, who are used to working with small areas and more rural areas, because that's really who this affects the most.
Just give me an idea here for people who have no idea, they're not part of this this plan, and I know they're excited about it. But what happens after the challenge period if there is not a challenge? Are we see boots on the ground then? We start seeing something happen?
Yes. So we will finish that challenge process. We will define our project areas. We will then take applications. That's probably going to take us through the summer to get all that done. And then we will make awards, and you will know who the provider is that's going to build out to your area. And so we'll be glad to give you their phone number then. But, but we'll be watching those. We'll be monitoring.
Yeah. So the providers still have time. In other words, it's a work in progress. The providers still have a chance. Everybody has a chance. Okay.
Yeah. We're really just starting this process with BEAD. Yes.
So the next part of this is to go there just to get the information from the end users for the most part.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. So we get our map correct. This is your last chance to make sure that your location is correct on the map, that it has the right, that it says what kind of service that you get. And more of Mississippi is served, and we're real proud of that progress. There's a lot of private build out that's being done without grant funding. I live in Brookhaven, and I know there's some build out there. So it's exciting to see around the state.
Is most of this underground, or is it a variety of different ways?
I think it's variety. In towns it's more underground, but if it's a rural area, then it's aerial. Our co-ops, of course, have been very aggressive building out in Mississippi. The work they've done is just incredible, and theirs is all aerial. And we were, concerned about that a little bit at first, but now we've had aerial fiber that's been up. And has survived, I think, a hurricane and a couple of tornadoes. So we feel good about it.
Yeah, the biggest danger to them are probably trees and things such as that.
Yeah, somebody hit a pole and the pole goes down. So yeah, there's all kinds of things. Yeah.
Well, it is exciting. It's taken a long time to get here, and hopefully by next Christmas at this time, we'll be light years ahead.
We should be. And by next Christmas at this time, there will be build-out going on, and if it's not being built out, you're doing all the preliminary work. So we are very excited about what all's going to happen this year. It's going to be a big undertaking.
You think about just when you and I started talking about this early on to where it is today. We've increased the need for that 10 times or more, not only through education, through the medical needs that you could possibly, the ways you could use that, but everything else, just ordering and everything else. It's amazing how badly that's needed in the rural areas of our state at a time when a lot of people are, they kind of want to get out of the city and they want to, get off the grid a little bit, but
off the grid, but yet have all those conveniences.
Yes,
and, so many of our issues that we struggle with in Mississippi are going to be impacted on this. I think our health outcomes can increase because this will provide more monitoring and able to use certain things that's going to help with that. I think it's going to help with our agriculture production, precision agriculture. They have all kinds of sensors that my understanding is that can go on the plants and help monitor and know when they need more water, more fertilizer, make it more precise. And so, education, so many resources that are going to be available to kids. A lot of kids who, we gave them a Chromebook from the state during COVID, but then they went home and could not access the internet. So I think it's going to be provide so answers to so many issues that we have in Mississippi.
You spoke of agriculture and how much has changed from the days being on the farm, but even the interrelationship with the drones and the drones taking moisture readings, insect readings, plant availability readings, every grass, weeds, all of this data. And it interacts with the satellites, et cetera, et cetera. It's just absolutely amazing.
It's all about data now.
Sally, I'm going to give you final thoughts when we come back in just a second with Sally Doty, Director, Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility. That's BEAM. For this segment, we are back on a Monday, December the 11th, with Sally Doty. And Sally, the final thoughts here on bringing all this together.
It is a tremendous effort that we are working on at the BEAM office, and I just want to encourage everyone to go and view the map that we have up. And I know, Paul, you tweeted it out, but it's broadbandms.com/bead map. And you can look up your location. You can put your address in and look at the providers and the speeds that are available at your home. And if that is not the case, then, and if maybe it's your neighborhood, we need you to contact your mayor, your county supervisor. And if you feel like perhaps, they have bigger fish to fry, which might be the case, because I know those people are very busy all the time. You can also just let our office know if there's like an area that has a problem. info@beam.ms.gov, or you can just go to our BEAM website, our state agency website, and use that info email, and that will get to us, and we'll take it under consideration.
For all of us who may be a little bit technically challenged, should you take that reading more than once or in different parts of the house?
Yes. So we have a speed test.
But before you continue, let me ask: is there a place on that let us know what it should be?
So if you do our speed test, which is at broadbandms.com, when you go to that, it says take the test. It runs 3 separate speed tests, and it will tell you if you were served, underserved, or unserved. And served, for the purposes of the speed program, is anything over 100 down and 20 up.
And it gives you that.
It gives you all that
range
information. Yeah.
Is it best to do it at different parts of the day, of course, when you have a heavy load or not?
It is. I know at my house, whenever my husband's a big Mississippi State fan, and whenever the game kicks off, we have some internet problems usually. So, times when there are a lot of traffic on there, go ahead and do that speed test and see. The challenge process we're going to run has very formal requirements. And so we're going to have information about that out to our local governments. You got to run the speed test 3 separate times for it to be a valid challenge. So we're going to be working through all those specifics and providing materials, written materials, webinars, social media to talk about how to do that. But you can go to the speed test right now and run that speed test and see what your location is.
I would imagine your neighbors, everybody ought to have about the same average in that area.
You would think so, yes.
Yeah. I'm also sure that if your husband was looking at Mississippi State stuff, he was getting the information that the Miami Marlins have traded former Mississippi State baseball player Jake Mangum to the Tampa Bay Rays. Did you catch that one, Lance? We didn't do that on Sports
No,
News
I didn't catch that. I'm so used to hearing him talk about being in New York and Mississippi that I wasn't listening to that.
Rays made the announcement on Friday, and for a player to be named later, 27-year-old, a native of Pearl, Mississippi. Played at MSU from 2016 to 19. The New York Mets drafted him and later traded him to the Miami Marlins. So
rebel killer. He was a rebel killer, man. He beat them every time.
And, by the way, also, if you're down on the coast, blockbuster trade with the New York Yankees Wednesday night. The San Diego Padres traded for former Biloxi Shuckers outfielder Trent Gresham to New York in a 7-player deal that also includes 3-time All-Star Juan Soto. So some news over the weekend that we failed to mention.
Good.
Sally, I thank you so very much for coming by. Some interesting and exciting news. And it looks like slowly but surely we're getting there.
It is. This federal money does not come easily. There are a lot of different steps that you have to take, and every state around the nation is doing the same thing. So we're all working through these processes, and it's very tightly controlled by the feds, too. They have to issue approvals at every step of the way.
I don't see how you do. Because at the end of the day, RFP probably takes on some nasty acronyms and things.
Yeah.
By the time you finish this project.
Yeah. It's crazy. Every now and then I'll do a sentence just full of acronyms, and I think, what have I become? I can't stand this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sally, thank you. Merry Christmas to you and the family.
Thank you as well.
And I thank you for coming in.